Well, there are so many, some that are offered up, a liberty, the scientific revolution. But the one that I think is most important is the medieval synthesis of faith and reason, which takes logos, or reason, or the word, which was vitally important to the ancient Greeks, and synthesises it with faith and the insights of faith. And so this is sometimes described as the union or the melding of Greece, or Athens, and Jerusalem. I think it's good to question everything and to challenge everything. And I think it's good to be self-critical, both on an individual and on a societal or civilisational level. But one shouldn't dismiss out of hand something that one doesn't really understand. There's that principle of not criticising what you don't understand. So self-critique is important, but it needs to be motivated really by a desire to improve on the past rather than to dismiss or to destroy the past. It's important to study any tradition, and the Western tradition as well, holistically. So looking at it from multiple perspectives, whether that's a particular period or a particular author, through different lenses. The lens of imaginative literature, the lens of philosophy, the lens of art, allows one to see the thing in its entirety, or as much as we can approach to its entirety, to see it as a whole. So if one looks at, for example, the work of the ancient Greeks, and one looks at imaginative literature and works of Homer, Sophocles, and ancient philosophy at the same time, the works of Plato and Aristotle, as well as the art of the period and the architecture of the period, one has a much better appreciation, not only of those individual works, but of the period as a whole. There are so many. I mean, first on the point of looking at great books chronologically, there are so many advantages educationally. If you begin any course of study with a sense of the order of the whole, then one is better able to place where things have come from and where they're going. And for example, in a great books course, by the time a student gets to, say, an author like Milton in the 17th century, looking at Paradise Lost, if they come to that work having already read those works that influenced Milton, going back to the ancient Greeks, looking at Homer, looking at the classical Roman poet Virgil, and then coming through to see examples of Christian epic in the work of Dante, and if one has a sense of the importance of the Old and New Testaments and the influence that they had on Milton's thought, then one can situate Milton already without the teacher needing to do a lot of extra work. One can situate Milton already in a historical context and see all the different shaping influences on his work. And so naturally, if all the students have the same sequence of subjects, beginning with the ancient Greeks, going through the ancient Romans, through the Middle Ages, Renaissance, Enlightenment, modern and postmodern periods, and they do this together in small classes, there are so many advantages. The conversations continue not only in class but outside of class, and they all have the same wonderful reference points from the tradition. I became interested in imaginative literature, and through imaginative literature in the great books more generally, through my encounter with poetry. Aristotle said that philosophy begins in wonder and ends in wisdom, but there's something before wonder, there's something before philosophy, and that is more simply joy and delight on an aesthetic level. And for me, that came through listening to and reading lyric poetry. So in my classes, I always emphasise to students the importance, before we analyse or study a poem, simply to get to know it, to live with it, to recite it, to memorise it, so that it becomes part of who they are. And to love something is, to me, almost a prerequisite for education. By loving it, you want to understand it more. And so everything that follows after that, analysis and critique, presupposes that what we're analysing, that what we're critiquing is something that we already see the intrinsic value of.